For information purposes, we have three members that are on the telephone. We have Ms. Tanner, Ms. Littleton, and Mr. McQuillan. So we have 8 of us represented here tonight. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
So moved.
It was Ramsey, I think.
Was that a motion by Mr. Ramsey and a second by Ms. Dr. Wigfall? I'm trying to juggle information from the telephone as well, so it's a little disconcerting. Is there any discussion about the agenda? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Mr. McQuillan?
Aye.
Okay. We have the agenda approved by a vote of 8-0. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the board meeting on July 13th?
Make the motion.
We have
Second.
a motion from Mr. Ramsey, a second from
Ms.
Ms. Marone. Do we have any discussion? All in favor of the motion of approving the minutes on July 13th, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The motion carries by a vote of 8-0. We also need a motion to approve the minutes of the board retreat on July 17, 2021. Do we have a motion?
I make the motion.
I have a motion from Ms. Marone, a second by Mr. Ramsey. We have any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes on the board retreat, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay?
Aye.
Mr. Barrow, I abstain. I wasn't present.
Okay, we have an abstention from Ms. Wofford. She was not present at the board retreat. The motion carries by a vote of 7-0. There's another item that we need to address, and that is to amend the minutes of a board meeting on June 22nd. I have a prepared text I'd like to read to inform the board and the audience and the public. The platform that the district uses to facilitate our meetings, agendas, and policies made us aware of a glitch in the system that resulted in items disappearing from agendas. The platform specifically identified the June 22nd, 2021 agenda and the missing item as 7D, which was, I quote, a new K-8 school in the Carnes Crossroads community, end quote. Because the item disappeared from the agenda in the platform and we use that to develop the minutes, the item that is not accurately reflected in the minutes that were approved for that board meeting. As such, the minutes must be amended to reflect the item and resulting action of the board. The board meeting from that night has been reviewed, and it is confirmed that the matter was on the agenda, and the board did take the action. The platform has corrected the agenda appropriately, and we need to correct the minutes. So I need a motion to amend the minutes from June 22nd, 2021 to reflect item 7D and the resulting unanimous vote of 7-0 in favor of building the new K-8 school in the Carnes Crossroads community. Do I have a motion?
I move to amend the minutes of June 22nd, 2021, as described by the chair.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Wofford. We have a motion from Ms. Wofford to amend those minutes, and a second from Ms. Marone. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question of amending the minutes of the June 22nd, 2021 meeting. All in favor of amending the minutes, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it by a vote of 8-0, unanimous consent in amending the minutes. Now I'll entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
Make the motion.
I have a motion from Mr. Ramsey. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Wofford to enter into executive session. Stated purposes of executive session is 2B, discussion of employment, appointment, assignment, demotion, discipline, or release of an employee or employees as needed. And 2C, a legal update relating to a pending, threatened, or potential claim, as well as 2D, 3 student attendance appeals. All in favor of the motion going into executive session, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries by a vote of 8-0. We are in executive session. Now I'll entertain a motion to return to regular session.
I make the motion.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Ramsey, a second from Dr. Wigfall to return to regular session. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of returning to regular session, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries by a vote of 8-0. We are now in regular session. For the information of individuals that came in late, we do have 3 board members that are with us by telephone this evening, Ms. Tanner, Ms. Littleton, and Mr. McQuillan. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Before we go into our citizens' comments, I'd like to recognize 2 new cabinet members that are on with us tonight. Mr. Tim McDowell, who was the principal of Cane Bay High School, is now the Chief Pupil Services person for the school district, replacing Mr. Jackson. Let's give Mr. McDowell a round of applause. And the Chief Administrative Officer for Secondary Schools is Ms. Heather Taylor, who was principal of Stratford High School for many years. Welcome, Ms. Taylor. Now, the citizens' comments. In order to conduct the meeting in an orderly and efficient manner, we ask that you honor the following guidelines. Stakeholder comments are welcomed and encouraged. However, the board will not take any immediate action on public comments at this meeting. Any person wishing to address the board must register prior to the meeting. Comments must be regarding programs, policies, or procedures. Comments regarding complaints against employees other than district-level executives or references to students other than the child of the speaker will not be heard in public session. Groups addressing the same topic should select 1 speaker. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. The board chair reserves the right to allot additional time or halt public comment that do not adhere to the guidelines. Our first speaker is Dr. Sheila Foster, and the comment is on history or CRT. Welcome, Dr. Foster.
Doesn't leave any space.
Dr. Foster, could you please pull the microphone down towards you?
I'm sorry, there's no space here left for me to put any papers.
Well, we're going to withhold your time until you start talking.
Okay, let me move this down. Okay. I'm a teacher. I've taught longer than most of you have been alive. I've taught in grades 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 in urban, suburban, and rural schools, in undergraduate and graduate programs of small, medium, and large colleges, nationally and internationally. I've taken and taught classes online and in person. Perhaps that gives me sufficient credibility to address this group. I'm concerned about our country and our children and know that CRT is not the answer to these concerns, but teaching more of the history of the United States may be. That history needs to be far more complete and in-depth than what I learned. It needs to point out things done wrong, but it must never omit, and we must never forget the things that were done right. Increased unity and betterment of our country and its people come through knowledge, love, and respect, not falsehoods, hate, and division. I still need to learn more about the oppression, victimhood, and socialism embedded in CRT, but as one North Carolina newspaper headline stated, Ibrahim Kendi, a leader in CRT, is paid $580 a minute to tell white teachers they hate black students. But do we know enough about our own history? This past year has been a blur. So think back 3 years ago to 2018. Donald Trump was president, the economy was growing, and none of us had heard of a place called Wuhan. Can you go back that far? Be honest, in 2018, how many of you knew about the Tulsa massacre? How many of you had heard of Juneteenth? Can you tell me who Hiram Rhodes Rebels is? How about Benjamin Turner, Josiah Walls, Jefferson Long? When President Trump proposed Juneteenth as a national holiday, I'd not heard of it. Perhaps I can be forgiven since I was in such good company. President Obama never mentioned it, and a year before signing the bill making it a national holiday, President Biden confused both its date and what it commemorated as he criticized President Trump for a June 17th rally saying, quote, he's going down to Texas on Juneteenth, right? The first major massacre of the blacks Wall Street, right? Unquote. Despite studying history in high school and college, yes, history was required of all students back then, we never seemed to get much beyond the Civil War. So when President Trump mentioned Juneteenth, I was curious and went on a search of my own. When I heard about Tulsa this past year, again, I searched so I could learn. That is how we grow, by seeking truth, not by teaching hate and division. By the way, the names mentioned earlier, if I can find them, those men, along with Robert Brown Elliott, Joseph Haynes Rainey, and Robert DeLarge of South Carolina, are pictured here in an 1872 Courier Ives print of the first African-American members of the 41st and 42nd Congress, the first sessions to include African-American members. I omitted the names of those South Carolinian congressmen and senators because I thought you might recognize them. But think of it, within 5 years of the Civil War, 23 African Americans were elected to Congress. 13 were former slaves. 3 were ministers. 5 were teachers. 4 were university presidents. 13 were state legislatures. All were Republicans. Oppressed? Victims? I think not. 5 years from slave to lawmaker? Now that's history.
Dr. Foster, your time has expired. Thank you for coming in.
I give them a homework assignment since I'm a teacher.
Perhaps you can rejoin us next meeting.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Garris Davis on communication and curriculum. Welcome, Mr. Davis.
Appreciate the opportunity to speak. This evening I speak in behalf of 6 other parents and citizens, as I normally do. Item 1, we'll start this evening with something pleasant. All of the things that are said up here are good. They may not be as pleasant as other things. The objective is to improve the relationship between the school board, the public, and the local schools by cultivating better communication. We believe it is the responsibility of the school board to educate parents and citizens on all aspects of K through 12 education. Likewise, we as parents know we have a responsibility to educate ourselves on everything we can as it relates to our children's education. The activity we have chosen to accomplish the objective to improve communication is for the school board and the academics and innovation department, along with teachers, make a comprehensive formal public presentation on the process which produced the 2021-2022 social studies curriculum for K through 12 students. To help the board prepare the presentation, we suggest the presentation include the composition of the curriculum committee, such as board members, teachers, and other educators and parents. It also should include the selection process and names for textbooks, e-learning, and any other approved educational materials. Item 2, we received some encouragement from July 17, 2021 School Board Conference when Chairman Barrow brought up the national debate on CRT and 1619 projects. Superintendent Jackson and School Board member Mr. Ramsey participated in the discussion. We are looking forward to the board expanding this discussion with the public and taking a leadership position on these issues. We feel it was a good meeting and should have been recorded. Item 3, we still need the school board's answer on our request to have teachers notify parents before teaching any New York Times sponsored 1619 project material. Dr. Dixon told us he would bring this up again at this morning's board meeting. We've been waiting for 6 weeks to get an answer. Item 4, we request our board attorney, Ms. Richardson, to document that no ESSER or other Fed funds will come with strings attached to implement CRT and any other of its derivatives. Item 5, we request an explanation of why a citizen speaker's comments were missing from the board meeting video for the June 22nd meeting. Whatever happened did not appear to be a technical glitch since it was seamless. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. The next speaker is Ms. Ingrid Centurion. The comment or the topic is ESSER funding and CRT in the curriculum. Welcome, Ms. Centurion.
My name is Ingrid Centurion, and I am a Lieutenant Colonel, U.S. Army, retired, 22 years on active duty as a helicopter pilot. I was also an instructor pilot and a maintenance test pilot. And I learned to fly when I was 16 years old. And you started off this meeting that the questions are about programs, policies, and procedures. And so the question that I have and that I would like an answer to, because the school board members work for the families out here. I represent every single mom out there who's working hard. I represent all those single fathers who are out there working hard. And I represent all those people who are Hispanic, Latina. I speak Spanish and Portuguese. And there are a lot of parents out there that have very little education and they can't help their children's. And I want to talk about the ESR program because you've been funded for this. And I would like to know how much money is being allocated to the Berkeley County School Department, as well as how much of that funding is going to go towards critical race theory and social emotional learning. Then I'd like to talk about how our students, our children, deserve the best. Our children and our students deserve the best teachers. Our teachers need to focus on the basics, and that is reading, writing, comprehension, analysis, critical thinking, and mathematics. And our children need to be questioning the teachers in the classroom. The teachers in the classroom, as educators, should try to reach out to all the students and dare them to challenge them. Our educators need to focus on excellence. Excellence in the classroom, not social emotional learning. Our students are being taught and indoctrinated with critical race theory. A theory is just that, as defined in the dictionary. It's a well-substantiated explanation of aspects. theories, ideas. They may not be real. They may not even be correct. And so let's get back to the basics of focusing on English, reading, writing, mathematics, comprehension, and critical thinking. Those are life skills. Teachers should not be teaching social and emotional learning. That is up to the parents out there, whether you're a single mom or you're a single dad. And so I stand here today to talk about that, and I would like my questions answered at the beginning of the topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. The next speaker is Terry Hardesty concerning the Barra FOIA and CRT.
Good evening, members of the board and Superintendent Jackson. At the last meeting, I was standing up here speaking and I was interrupted by our board chair regarding the FOIA that was submitted regarding the sexual harassment claim against him and the school district. And he stated that I gave incorrect information. And I have to stand here and say he was correct. And as a man of honor, I have to apologize. That being said, I got to thinking about the date that I missed because I was just speaking from memory. And the FOIA is rather lengthy and there's documents in there from all different times and frames, and it's difficult to follow along with it. So I just did a little spreadsheet of dates, and a couple things really stood out to me. And the first date was August 11, 2000. There was an email between Mrs. X and Willis Sanders. And it was trying to set up a meeting where she could file a claim of sexual harassment against Mr. Barrow. There was another claim made on 8/29 where that meeting actually took place with the then Superintendent Chester Floyd. And then you don't hear anything for 4 years. On 3/2/2004, there was is the date of a complaint stating harassment started in June of 1997. So this lady endured whatever was going on for 7 years before finally she hired an attorney. And even at that point in time, the district was jerking her around pretty bad. And she filed a complaint with the EEOC. And on 9/23/2004, EEOC has a finding of sufficient evidence to establish reasonable cause to believe Mrs. X was the victim of discrimination. So this is a very valid thing. And I just hope the board does something about it. With regard to Superintendent Jackson, I received a letter today regarding the comments that I made at the last meeting. And that's the first letter I had received being up here in quite a while. So I commend Superintendent Jackson for being willing to communicate. I think that's very important, and I appreciate that greatly. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Mr. Tony Sims under Mirrored History. Welcome, Mr. Sims.
This will always remain the biggest joke of democracy, that they gave their enemies the means to be destroyed. Joseph Goebbels, and if you don't know who he is, he was Adolf Hitler's propaganda minister. Plato's 8th book of the Republic, Socrates, he cites, talks about democracy and its need to have a strong man for an at-risk population, and that it potentially could be overtaken by that thought process and a strong man, and therefore use those liberties against us to be overtaken. The more I do this, the more I need to go back and thank my public school American history teachers. They are, as one of them taught me, the guardrails to democracy. They are one of the beginning guardrails to democracy. I was taught how fragile a constitution is and how it depends on people making the right decision at the right time, especially during times of transition of power. I was taught that you have to protect those rights, and as an American, you need to protect that progress, and you need to internally assess and look and question to make sure that everything is going the way it's supposed to prevent regression. One of my history teachers talked about 4 pillars of society: government, academia, science, and media. He talked about how important tenure was and how without it, you could potentially influence and pressure teachers to, let's say, not teach the truth for an agenda. We potentially have ultranationalists who could overthrow our government and/or become extremists and cite our own academia as a reasoning to instill that. And why would we want to do that? In history, this has been done, and it's done to instill nationalist beliefs, a myth of a time that was great that never was, and it used as a reason to not teach the truth. I was taught to be aware and be careful and to be alert when a populist candidate comes in who with no experience and says that I am you and you are me, and those people over there on the left, they don't know what they're talking about. They are more than wrong about our culture and our views. That populist candidate could be somebody who turns out to be a tyrannical leader without proper precautions and warning. We could be ending up like that, and I see that here.
Thank you, Mr. Sims. Our last speaker is Ms. Kathleen, I believe it's Regalito. It's very difficult to read the handwriting, ma'am. Summer reading program and unwarranted community disharmony.
Just a concerned citizen from Berkeley County, taxpayer here, and I had some questions as far as the summer reading program. Summer reading has long been a wonderful tradition. Lazy days spent reading on a porch swing, at the beach, or under a shady tree. Librarians and teachers noticed that students who indulged in this tradition were more likely to maintain and even improve their reading and academic skill levels. This led to summer reading programs, which are now popular with people of all ages. Those responsible for selecting what to include in the program try to choose materials that have widespread appeal, because it's not helpful if the reading materials are tossed aside and forgotten, are developmentally appropriate. We're not going to suggest giving a 5th grader a college literature book, nor are we going to suggest baby board books for 2nd graders. And readily accessible for reasonable cost. If the student can't get the material, no matter how good it is, it's useless. In the last few days, a rumor was circulating that a school board member said a certain title appeared on the summer reading list. I suspected from the beginning this was false, given that the title is a board book, suggested for ages 0 to 3, and Berkeley County School District does not serve that population. Furthermore, this book is not available as of last week at any of the public libraries in the Tri-County area. So there would be a lack of accessibility. Anyone who knows my style on the neighborhood discussion pages is aware that I tend to request verification. So I decided to check for myself. The 2 elementary schools closest to my home use similar language arts open-ended assignments. Students are asked to complete 8 to 10 of the activities. None of those require a particular book. Some call for reading other things than books, such as a cereal box or a magazine. This is developmentally appropriate practice, since one big goal at this age is to have students develop awareness that there are reading opportunities all around them, any place and any time. I'm concerned about the animosity being stoked in the community that seems to pit parents, teachers, principals against one another. Since we know the schools best serve the community when all stakeholders are working together, we must ask ourselves why someone would stir controversy where none exists, and what we as community members, board members, and teachers can do to guard against those who would try to separate us. I don't have the answer for that. I believe that publicly outing the board member or the person who shared the accusation on social media would just further divide the community. So I'm not going to do that. I provided a hard copy of the screenshot in a sealed envelope to each board member. If you choose to open it, I urge you to use the additional information in a way that brings us together. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The next item on the agenda is item number 5, Legacy Legend, Special Recognition. I'd like to recognize Ms. Trish Davis, Director of the Office of Educator Effectiveness for the Berkeley County School District. And I think she will introduce our Rookie Teacher of the Year for the Berkeley County School District. Perhaps, Katie, I didn't get the message. Were you supposed to introduce
Katie just
Trish?
asked me to, but I think we had 2 different messages, so I was just going to ask her to come up anyways.
That's all right.
Okay.
We're nothing but flexible.
Very good.
Good evening, Chairman Barrow, Superintendent Jackson, and board members. I'd like to share a little bit about one of our teachers in Berkeley County, Caitlin Simonides. She is a special education teacher at Daniel Island School. She earned her degree at the College of Charleston and is certified in the areas of intellectual disabilities and emotional disabilities. Last year was her very first year of teaching. Fortunately, it was with us. Despite being a new teacher, she has earned the respect of her administration and her peers. She was nominated for the Berkeley County School District Rookie Teacher of the Year by her principal, who stated, "She is a consistent advocate for her students, as well as all special education students. She has taken the initiative to work with parents, counselors, and administrators to meet the needs of her students and plans high-quality lessons for multiple grade levels. Her professionalism and positive attitude are contagious among staff." Her mentor also praised her positive attitude and her willingness to assist other students, even though those outside her classroom. Despite these accolades, Ms. Simonides was very humble in her Rookie Teacher of the Year application. She wrote, "A certain emphasis needs to be placed on the use of we. I have an amazing team and a phenomenal paraprofessional. I am able to support my students because I am supported as an educator. By utilizing this support system, I am able to influence my students' successes." She ended by stating, "I love my job. Even on the hard days when I'm in bed by 4 p.m., I'm able to wake up knowing that I do not want to be anywhere else." So please join me in congratulating Ms. Caitlin Simonides as Berkeley County School District's 2020-2021 Rookie Teacher of the Year. Thank you.
I was looking for a photo op. Can we get a picture? Is it? Yeah, let's do that. Ms. Caitlin, do you have any family with you tonight?
I have to leave my principal.
That's close to family. Would you like to say a few words for the crowd? Would you like to say something? You're welcome to take the podium.
Thank you guys for having me and for this honor. It's so sweet of you guys.
Welcome to Berkeley County.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is items that are required for action items from executive session. We do have 3 attendance appeals. I'll hear those motions at this time. Hello?
For appeal number 1.
Appeal number 1, student number 1.
Yep. Appeal number 1, I make the motion to deny.
Mr. Ramsey makes a motion to deny the attendance appeal of student number 1. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have several seconds. We'll say Ms. Marone made the second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question on student number 1. All in favor of denying the attendance appeal of student number 1, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The motion carries by a vote of 8-0. The attendance appeals of students number 2 and 3 will be heard together as they are siblings. So I'll ask for a motion.
Mr. Chair, in the matter of students numbers 2 and 3, I move that we deny the appeal.
Mr. McQuillan has made a motion to deny the appeal of students numbers 2 and 3. Is there a second?
I second.
We have a second from Ms. Tanner. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of denying the appeals of students numbers 2 and 3, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
We have a motion that is approved by a vote of 7-1. The motion is denied. Excuse me, the motion is approved to deny the appeals. And we have several very important individuals to recognize tonight with positions that are very important for this school district to fill. We'll ask for number 1.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the recommendation of the administration to name Mr. Brent Dubé as the new assistant principal of Hanahan Elementary with a starting date of July the 28th, 2021.
We have a motion from Mr. Ramsey. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Ramsey, a second from Ms. Wofford to approve the assistant, Mr. Brent Dubé as the new assistant principal of Hanahan Elementary School with a starting date of tomorrow.
At midnight.
At midnight. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Unanimous consent, 8-0. Bay? Mr. Dubé, do you have your family? Would you like a family shot there? We've got plenty of time. Or are you going outside? You're doing outside afterwards? Okay, that's fine. Ms. Wofford, I apologize.
No, I think he was introducing his wife.
Oh, introduce, yeah. Okay.
Always introduce the wife.
Smart man there.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the recommendation of the administration to name Miss Amy Gary as the new assistant principal of Berkeley Middle School with a starting date of July 28th, 2021.
I have a motion from Ms. Wofford. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Ms. Marone to have Ms. Amy Gary as the new assistant principal of Berkeley Middle School with starting date of July 28, 2021. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries by a vote of 8-0. Congratulations, Ms. Gary. Introduce your family, friends, guests.
So my mother, and then
Fantastic.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the recommendation of the administration to name Mr. Nathan Snyder as the new assistant principal of Whitesville Elementary with a starting date of July the 28th, 2021.
We have a motion from Dr. Wigfall. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
We have a second from Ms. Wofford. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question of approving Mr. Nathan Snyder as the new assistant principal of Whitesville Elementary School with the starting date of July 28, 2021. All in favor of the motion respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? The motion carries by a vote of 8-0. Congratulations, Mr. Snyder. Hello, Ashley. We're going to take a picture out later. Is that what we're doing? Okay, very good.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the recommendation of the administration to name Ms. Dina Riddle as the new assistant principal of Foxbank Elementary with a starting date of July 28, 2021.
We have a motion from Ms. Wofford. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Ramsey to accept the recommendation of Ms. Deanna Riddle as the new assistant principal of Foxbank Elementary, the starting date of July 28, 2021. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it by a vote of 8-0. Congratulations, Ms. Riddle. It's all in the family. There you go. Congratulations.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the recommendation of the administration to name Ms. Jessica White as the new assistant principal of Nexton Elementary with a starting date of July 28, 2021.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Marone, a second from Ms. Wofford, to accept the recommendation of the administration to name Ms. Jessica White as new assistant principal of Nexton Elementary, beginning the starting date of July 28, 2021. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Congratulations. The motion carries by a vote of 8-0. Congratulations, Ms. White. Did you introduce your family?
This is my husband, Troy. This is my daughter, Kaylee. This is my nephew, Kyle, and my other daughter.
Welcome to the board meeting and congratulations again.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the recommendation of the administration to name Mr. Daniel Batkins as the new assistant principal of Hanahan Middle with a starting date of July the 28th, 2021.
We have a motion from Mr. Ramsey. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Ms. Marone to approve the recommendation of the administration to name Mr. Daniel Batkins as the assistant principal of Hanahan Middle with a start date of July 28, 2021. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries by a vote of 8-0, and there's another vote that agrees. Congratulations, Mr. Batkins. Introduce your family.
My wife, Katie Batkins, my daughter Mary, my mother-in-law, Erin Biggs, and my mom, Wendy Ames.
Congratulations. And we have Ms. Tanner, I think, is going to do the next. Ms. Tanner, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the recommendation of the administration to name Mr. Jeffrey Snow as the new assistant principal of Cane Bay High with a starting date of July 28, 2021. Second.
I'll defer to Ms. Littleton.
We have a motion from Ms. Tanner and a second from Ms. Littleton. That was her on the line as well. To accept the recommendation of the administration to name Mr. Jeffrey Snow as the new assistant principal of Cane Bay High School with a starting date of July 28, 2021. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries by a vote of 8-0. Congratulations, Mr. Snow. And your family, or anybody with you that you'd like to introduce.
Yes, my wife Lori.
Welcome. Congratulations. And remember to take those photos because we'd like to make sure that they're posted on whatever platforms are available for us. At this point in time, if you're here and would like to leave, it's an opportune time for you to leave before we get into the committee reports. Thank you for attending. Thanks, Colonel. The next items on the agenda are reports from standing committees. First, we'll have a report from the Committee on Academics and Innovation. Chairman Michael Ramsey, you're recognized. Mr. Ramsey.
Mr. Chairman, the Committee on Academics and Innovation met on July the 13th, 2021. On recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the Head Start budget expenditures report for May to 2021, Head Start credit card report for May 2021, and prospective new hires.
We have a recommendation from committee. No second is required. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it unanimously by a vote of 8-0.
Also, on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the proposed 2021-2022 local board approved and innovative courses as provided for second reading.
We have a recommendation from committee. No second is required. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, respond by saying nay. Ayes have it unanimously by a vote of 8-0.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. Next is the Committee on Finance and Capital Planning. Board Secretary Dr. Crystal Wigfall will read on behalf of the committee.
Mr. Chairman, the Committee on Finance and Capital Planning met on July 13th, 2021, and on the recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the out-of-state travel as presented.
We have a recommendation from committee, and no second is required. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please respond by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, respond by saying nay. The ayes have it by a vote of 8-0. The motion is adopted.
Also, on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the amendment to the URSA 2 budget to include the additional URSA technician position as presented.
We have a recommendation from committee, and no second is required. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, respond by saying nay. The ayes have it by a vote of 8-0. The motion is adopted.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Excuse me, I apologize. I thought there was all unanimous consent. Was there a nay vote?
Littleton, yes.
Okay.
I said nay.
Ms. Littleton voted in the negative. She did not vote affirmatively, so the vote carries by a vote of 7-1.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next is reports from the Committee on Human Resources. Ms. Kelly Marone will read the report.
Mr. Chairman, the Committee on Human Resources met on July 13th, 2021, and on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the 2021-2022 salary book as presented.
We have recommendation from committee, and no second is required. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, please respond by saying nay. The motion carries unanimously by a vote of 8-0.
Also, on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the first reading of policy JCA, sexual discrimination and harassment as presented.
We have a recommendation from committee. No second is required. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, please respond by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, respond by saying nay. The ayes have it by a vote of 8-0.
Also, on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the first reading of policy JCA-R, student sexual discrimination and harassment as presented.
We have a recommendation from committee. No second is required. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please respond by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries by a vote of 8-0.
Also, on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve first reading of policy GBAA, anti-harassment as presented.
We have a recommendation from committee. No second is required. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any negative? If you're opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it by a vote of 8-0.
Also, on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the first reading of policy GBAA-R as presented.
We have a recommendation from committee. No second is required. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it by a vote of 8-0.
Also, on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve first reading of policy GBAC, discrimination, harassment, and retaliation as presented.
We have a recommendation from committee. No second is required. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Any opposed, nay? Ayes have it by a vote of 8-0.
Also on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve first reading of policy GBAC-R, discrimination, harassment, and retaliation as presented.
We have a recommendation from committee. No second is required. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it by a vote of 8-0.
Also on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve first reading of GBAC-E1, discrimination, harassment, and retaliation complaint form as presented.
We have a recommendation from committee. No second is required. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries by a vote of 8-0.
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to say that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Marone. Next item on the agenda will be the superintendent's report. Mr. Jackson.
Good evening, Chairman Barrow, board members, cabinet members, members of the audience. Believe it or not, we are halfway through my 4th week as superintendent, and we are deep into preparation for the upcoming school year. The most recent highlight occurred last week during our annual summer leadership retreat, where our leadership teams, our school leadership teams, came together to participate in professional development and preparation for the upcoming school year. Among many topics, we discussed the characteristics of a quality organization and work to understand our individual leadership strengths so that we can better perform as a team. Our leaders also had the opportunity to attend one of the most powerful and impactful presentations I've ever witnessed. Former Columbine High School principal, Mr. Frank DeAngelis, or Mr. D, joined us to share his experiences before, during, and after the tragic event. He also spoke to our administrators about the importance of leadership, relationships, school culture, and community when working through crisis situations. We appreciate Mr. D and his willingness to share such a deeply personal experience to help prepare our leaders. Earlier today, I had the opportunity and the honor of kicking off our annual custodial safety training. This past year demonstrated the importance of our custodial personnel as they are the first line of defense to ensure a healthy and safe environment for our students and staff. And so we appreciate the level of commitment displayed during this past year and the work that they continue to do each day. We will continue our rigorous cleaning standards so our students and staff remain safe and healthy. Again, thank you, a big thank you to our custodial staff. Tomorrow morning, I will have the opportunity to host a meeting with area business leaders to discuss the allocation of our ESSER 3 funding and also solicit feedback to help ensure our students are prepared to compete for available jobs in the local market. I'm looking forward to this opportunity to meet with more than a dozen local employers and plan to host these meetings on a quarterly basis. Board members, if you would like to attend, please let us know as we will be providing breakfast. And if you are in the business community and you would like to receive an invitation to future meetings or these upcoming meetings, please contact Katie Tanner in our communications department. Board members, if you have not done so already, please mark your calendars for August 2nd. That's Monday, August 2nd, as we host our new teacher orientation at Berkeley Middle School. We would love for you to join us if you have the opportunity to, and if you're available. Looking forward to meeting and working with these new teachers as we will be going through this first year together. This will be my first year and their first year. If you have not checked out our website lately, please do so. We have a wealth of information posted on the site, such as our return to school plan, as well as an opportunity to provide feedback for the district's ESSER 3 funding. You will also find important information about upcoming meetings for our schools that have new leadership. These events will be conducted in a drop-in format on the campuses of each school. Each meeting will begin at 5:30 and conclude at 7 p.m., starting on Monday, August 2nd at Cane Bay High School and Philip Simmons Elementary School, on Tuesday, August 3rd at Stratford High School and Merrington Middle School, and Thursday, August 5th, Cross Elementary School and Berkeley High School. Again, these meetings will begin at 5:30 and conclude at 7 p.m. and will be conducted in a drop-in format to accommodate anyone that has a late evening work schedule. Again, I encourage everyone in these communities to come out and meet your new leadership. Mr. Board Chair, that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Just a couple of notes on my behalf. I'd like to congratulate the administrative staff, Mr. Jackson and his cabinet, and board members for participating in the board retreat at Wampee on July 17th. I thought it was very informative. It was, even though it was Saturday, there were lots of positive information, a lot of good feedback. Appreciate those folks who took the time and the effort to actually come out and enjoy the day together. I thought it was very impactful for the upcoming year and for the short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals that our district is setting before us during this summer. It's very impactful. It's very important. I had a conversation earlier before the meeting with Judy Rainey, and if you look in the back, you'll see two posters. You'll see Ms. Rainey and also Ms. Gary as the last two teachers of the year. They are actually going to have a teacher forum retreat, and it's going to be one that they are actually inviting all of the board members and cabinet members. And I think if you have the date of August 5 at MNRIV from 9 to 3, Ms. Rainey, you're welcome to attend. I understand it's going to be possibly a change of the guard. We're going to do some new and hopefully very positive steps with our teacher forum. It's always been one of the best in the state. There's no question about that. For 25 years, it's been one of the best, no question. But these ladies, and with the impact of the new teachers of the year, the new toys, and their new leadership, I see it blossoming and getting a whole lot better. And the more we can involve ourselves in this particular effort, because our teachers are the most important employees that we have. We're all important. Don't get me wrong, but the teachers need to know that we support them and we cherish them and we want them to stay. And I think that's important. So July 5, I know that's a work day for those of you who do, August 5, you're right. August 5, but if you're retired like me, you have no reason not to go. So I'm going if the creek don't rise. So any other board members have any comments they'd like to share? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I made the motion.
Second.
We have Mr. Ramsey and Ms. Tanner, a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. We are adjourned by a vote of 8-0. Have a great evening and a good week.